28. Fireworks and Sparks. KARASPOV. It's been about a week since the friendship between Jason and I started. I ended up driving him to my house that one night I blame Rachel. And Ryder picked him up. Both my wolf and I got to know him better, and vice versa. The one thing we both have in common, though, is that we despise Evelyn. We have been hanging out for the past few days when Kelly got sick. In the hallways, we have come up with intricate plans to avoid her at all costs. I must say, I can see why we are mates. We make a pretty good team. I am upset that I can't reveal my true identity to him since he doesn't know about the mate bond we have, but I am also happy. Our relationship started with one as friends, where we get to know each other instead of jumping straight into all the mushy-gushy junk. I was walking down the hall on an ordinary Friday when Jason appeared in front of me. "Hey, Kara." I laughed at his eagerness to talk to me before responding. "Hello, Jason." He awkwardly began scratching the back of his neck. So a few of us from school are going to a firework display tonight. Do you want to come?" I had been invited to small events among my old pack, but with the threats on Blue Moon, those soon became non-existent. "Sure. Who all is going?" "Me, Caleb, Charlotte, Kelly, Ryder." He then proceeded to continue to list names of classmates attending that I wasn't familiar with. He soon saw my hesitation in my eyes when he had mentioned Charlotte. "Don't worry, you don't have to hang out with people you don't want to, but I seriously need your help evading Evelyn." "Is that the only reason you are inviting me?" I teased. Jason smirked in return. "Maybe not." The warning bell rang and we ran to class. It looked like this was his way of making up for me driving him that one day. That night I had coordinated with Jason, who agreed to picking me up. Deciding not to go too formal, I put on a pair of ripped jeans and a gray sweater. Even though the werewolf part of me was able to heat my body in extremely cold temperatures, I needed to blend in among the humans. I was already hanging out with the alpha all of a sudden. I didn't need anything else to incriminate me. I put on black ankle boots and made my way down the stairs with my blonde and purple hair cascading down my back. "Aunt Martha, I'm going out." "Okay, just don't do anything stupid like getting caught." That reminded me I needed more of that masking spray. "Martha, I need more of that perfume." "No, you don't, sweetheart. Now go." What? How was I supposed to go to a werewolf-infested area reeking of rogue? Was I asking to be killed? Before I could bicker with Martha anymore, however, the doorbell rang. Real convenient. I opened it slowly to find Jason on my porch, texting at the moment. His brown hair was messy as usual, but looked fantastic at the same time. He had a black athletic t-shirt and dark-washed jeans. He looked up and smiled. "Hey, you ready to go?" I nodded reluctantly, before following him out. Just before I got into his Camaro, I saw Martha wave through one of the windows, to which I shot a death glare back. Oh boy, did I really hate her right now. When we arrived, everyone was hanging out in a field where the fireworks would be shot off. All the cars were parked up and people were holding tailgate parties. I only recognized a handful of people from school, but the rest mostly smelled of wolves. Just great. We parked towards the back and made our way to the middle of the gathering. At first I thought Jason was just doing this to loose Evelyn had she spotted us already, but then I saw Ryder sitting in the back of what I presumed was his truck. "Jason. Kara," we jogged over to where he currently was. "You guys can hang out over here and sit in the bed of the truck if you want. You are my friends, after all." Jason and him got engaged in a deep conversation, so I sought out someone I knew. I had to avoid Charlotte and Evelyn's group, but I eventually found Kelly. "Hey, Kel." "Kara." Hawaii. We hugged before I questioned her about her disappearance. She quickly brushed it off, saying she caught a cold and that it was nothing. This only made me more suspicious. I brushed it off for now, convincing both Rachel and I that we needed to take a break. "Hey, do you want to come hang out with Jason and some of his friends? I really don't want to be the only girl over there," she nodded enthusiastically before linking arms as we walked back. When we arrived at the truck, I quickly introduced Kelly to Ryder, since Jason had already met her. She was really shy at first, but when their hands brushed, her eyes lit up like never before. Could she be feeling the mate bond? Wait, was Kelly Ryder's mate? "What's the chance that the only friends we've made here are the mates of the highest-ranking wolves?" Rachel asked incredulously, just as surprised as I am. They immediately began talking before disappearing from sight. "Hey Kara, the show's about to start. Do you want to come up here?" Jason asked from the back of the truck, patting the spot next to him, while I had been with Kelly and Ryder had draped it in blankets. "Sure," I replied, and with the help of Jason, hoisted myself into the truck. We both laid down beside each other, only with our elbows touching. Just as the first firework lit up the sky, Jason held my hand. I looked over at him, only to find he was already staring at me. My words caught in my throat. Usually this never happens. I always have a comeback. This is just what my mate does to me. Not wanting to look like a total idiot, I put my head back and watched as the fireworks continued to light the night sky. The only thing remotely as bright was the stars in the background. I found myself speaking to break the tense, awkward silence. "It's so beautiful." Jason chuckled lightly beside me, before pulling me closer. "That's not the only thing that's beautiful tonight." I don't quite remember who made the first move. All I know is that we ended up sitting right next to each other and our lips met. I wanted to melt right there on the spot. Sparks like never before exploded from our lips as they moved together. Jason seemed surprised at first, definitely not expecting the sparks, but he continued anyway. That was the night when it really hit me. This plan was going to be a whole lot more complicated. 29. Lonely. JASONSPOV. Flashback. Back. Sparks exploded upon contact. I was shocked to say the least, but I immediately continued kissing Kara until we both pulled away to breath. We looked deep into each other's eyes. Was I falling for the human? Or in the heat of the moment and fact that we didn't have a mate, I decided to take a chance. Whichever it was, I was in a daze for the rest of the night. Kara was too, and ended up going home with Kelly. Present time. I laid awake, repeating the night's events over in my mind. Kara. I had never felt that way with a girl before. Okay, maybe I felt more with that rogue. But who was my mate? Was it the rogue whose intoxicating scent had drawn me in? Or was it the human girl, the one that when we kissed sparks had flown like never before? I clutched my head in agony. This wasn't something that was going to solve itself overnight, that was for sure. I decided that the best thing I could do right now was to go to bed. I slowly drifted off to sleep. Dream. The vibrant glow of the stars seemed to declare nightfall as the winds whispered their good nights to the land. Leaves on the trees swayed to the river's steady lullaby. The moon shone bright in the middle of it all, illuminating the darkness, transforming the night into a vibrant masterpiece. I looked around, taking in the surroundings. Something stood out, though. It was the rogue, her red flaming hair in the usual bob as she looked over her shoulder at me. Laughter erupted from her, before she took off into the nearby forest with me hot on her heels. We weaved through the trees, her intoxicating scent drawing me in. Soon she arrived at a small lake with a waterfall pouring at the top, much like the place we first met. She appeared to be cornered as she spun around, backing up slowly with her hands out in front of her. I growled playfully as she giggled some more. Just before I could get close enough, she jumped into the water with a loud splash. I would have jumped in after the rogue, had I not seen something that caught my eye. Her hair went from a stringy red bob to luscious locks of brown hair before she hit the water. What was happening? I took a hesitant step forward, and she broke the surface, her red hair back. She looked breathless and breathtaking beautiful, Ethan added as she swam towards the edge. I'm guessing she must have noticed the transformation, because she looked at her hair curiously. Jason, her smile lit up the surroundings, and I stumbled towards her caught in a wave of awe. She climbed out before standing in front of me. Who are you? She looked down at her feet for a moment, which I realized were in the same sandals, along with the pink shirt and lime green shorts on. Strangely, she wasn't drenched either. In fact, it looked like she hadn't been anywhere near the water all day. My name's Amy, she said, her eyes meeting mine. For some reason I couldn't put my finger on the exactly why, but the name seemed to fit the girl with brown hair better. Why did you change like that? She played dumb. Like what? I know you saw it. Your red hair turned brown and grew much longer. What was that? I'm not really sure. But I can show you that version of me if you want without waiting for a reply, Her hair grew and turned brown, her eyes suddenly glowing an emerald green. "Mate," I couldn't help but growl out as the intoxicating scent increased, if that was possible. "Why do I feel like so many people are my mate?" I asked, sounding broken despite my efforts. I wasn't going to break down in my mate, or who I think is my mate. I'd never seen her before, but something told me she was somehow familiar. Amy sighed before tucking a strand of her hair behind her hair. "I really hate lying to you, Jason. I just need to let you know that hopefully your true mate will come, and when she arrives, she will enter with her arms open wide, no matter if she looks like the rogue, or me right now, or something completely different. You will know it when you see her." Just the way she said this made it seem like she wanted this to be desperately true. Amy wasn't the only one, however. I wanted this to be true, more than anything. I just wanted to have the alpha title and sit by my Luna, my dear Luna. Someday, whether it was now or sometime in the future, I wanted it to happen. I reached forward to touch the mystifying girl in front of me, knowing the one touch would reveal if she was my mate or not. Instead, the entire world around me disappeared, with her whispering sorry before I was whisked back to reality. End of dream. I sat up in a cold sweat, the events of the dream flooding my brain. All I knew was that I needed to tell someone about this, someone who wouldn't judge. I pulled out my phone from the nightstand beside me and texted the first person I thought of, Kara. I just had the weirdest dream. 30. That dream. KARRASPOV. Right after the kiss, it was sort of awkward. I mean, we kissed for goodness sake. I guess you could say I was sort of in a daze as I went throughout the rest of the night, which really consisted of either sitting by Jason or hanging out with Kelly and Ryder. When I got home, Martha confronted me. "So how was it?" I shrugged, not really in the mood to talk. After getting ready for bed, I slipped under my covers, hoping sleep would cure whatever was going on. "Do you want to talk to him?" Rachel hadn't spoken for the rest of the night, so I was surprised when I heard her voice. "I'm not calling or texting him, if that's what you're planning." "No, but trust me. I know just the way to communicate with him." She felt really guilty, knowing that we were only confusing Jason even more than he already was. Before I could hear any more of Rachel's plan, I drifted off to sleep. Dream. Dumb. I stood in the middle, a clearing. The vibrant glow of the stars seemed to declare nightfall. Leaves on the trees swayed to the river's steady lullaby. The moon shone bright in the middle of it all, illuminating the darkness, transforming the night into a vibrant masterpiece. Rachel felt at ease here, which ultimately calmed me. Glancing down at my attire, I found I had the stringy red hair with the same outfit that one day I shifted. Looking ahead, Jason stood, his attire from tonight showing off his muscles. His baffled look made me laugh, before I took off into a sprint. I heard him follow in pursuit, excitement coursing through my veins. I pushed myself to run as fast as I could as we ran through the trees of the forest, the only noise coming from us. Rachel purred at the thought of our mate running with us. This was what she had always wanted. I quickly arrived at a small lake with a gushing waterfall. It reminded me of that one day. Pulling myself from venturing down memory lane, I turned around to face my opponent. I backed up slowly with my hands in front of me, showing I was cornered. Jason growled playfully, causing Rachel to whine within me. She wanted to be by our mate so badly. I let a few giggles loose before he took hesitant steps forward. I immediately jumped into the water behind me before he had a chance to catch me. Just before I hit the water, however, something happened. My hair returned back to how it was, my brown, luscious locks that rolled down my back. When I resurfaced, I realized Jason had seen it too. Instead of jumping in after me, he stood on the shore, looking at me with a quizzical stare. I looked at my hair, only to see that it returned back to its red state. Strange, really strange. Well, this was a dream after all. Not everything made sense. I looked up to see Jason staring at me in awe before speaking. Jason, I smiled, as he slowly stumbled towards me. I pulled myself out of the water and stood in front of him. "Who are you?" He didn't recognize me. The only version of me he really knew was my human form. I looked at the ground for a moment, taking in my flip-flops as my dry hair stayed in its bob. Wait, did I say dry? I mentally scolded myself. This was a dream, after all. "My name's Amy," I found myself saying, my eyes meeting Jason's. As long as he didn't know my last name, he wouldn't be able to guess who I was. I watched as he scrutinized my name, his eyes never wandering from mine. That was when it hit me. My name was supposed to fit my appearance, and Amy didn't match the redhead rogue. Why did you change like that? I played dumb. Like what? I know you saw it. Your red hair turned brown and grew much longer. What was that? I'm not really sure, but I can show you that version of me if you want. Rachel promised me I could change again easily, so I did. Soon, my hair grew to its old length with all the waves, and I could feel my eyes burn slightly before I knew the transformation had ended. Mate Jason growled, the attraction between us doubling. I hadn't realized the pull from before because I had been forced to ignore it so much, but with his intoxicating scent and proximity, I knew I wouldn't be able to look past it any longer. Why do I feel like so many people are my mate, he asked, sounding broken. It tugged at my heart to hear him like this, and I could see his brain working to put together why I looked so familiar. I sighed before tucking a strand of brown hair behind my hair. I really hate lying to you, Jason. I just need to let you know that hopefully your true mate will come, and when she arrives she will enter with her arms open wide, no matter if she looks like the rogue, or me right now, or something completely different. You will know it when you see her. I wanted this to be desperately true. I could see that he wanted it also. All Rachel and I wanted was to be able to walk through the territory and be accepted by him, without endangering him and his pack, without posing a threat to anyone, just entering so that I could be with my mate. Jason pulled me from my thoughts as he reached forward to touch me, something I yearned to do as well. But this was a dream. It would only be hurting myself to feel the shower of sparks and this not even be real. So to save myself, I whispered sorry before I forced myself awake, effectively ending the dream. End of dream. My eyes fluttered open as the events of the dream came back to me. If only this was real. If only he had actually heard and seen everything. I ran a hand through my hair, and some of it brushed in front of my face. But it wasn't blonde or straight. In a panic, I threw on the lamp beside me, before flipping my hair in front of my face. It was my natural wavy brown locks. I took out my blue eye contacts every night, but what was up with the brown hair? Rachel tried to help me control my breathing, the shock getting the best of me. Was that just a dream? My phone buzzed, causing me to bolt upright. I looked over, seeing I'd gotten a text from Jason. Glancing at the clock, I saw it was only 2 a.m. I frowned. What would he be doing up? I looked at the text, and I could feel my face turn as white as a sheet as I did a double take. But that was just a dream. Or was it? From Jason. Kara, I just had the weirdest dream. 31. Evidence for what? JASONSPOV. It was Monday already, and strangely I still hadn't received a text back from Kara. Or any text at all. I hadn't been able to go back to sleep that night after the dream, mostly due to Ethan. He demanded we track down Amy so that we could be with our mate. If only it was that simple. I headed into school, hoping to catch a glance of blonde hair and purple highlights or her black sedan, but I saw nothing. Ethan became quiet and hid from me for the majority of the morning, like how I avoided Evelyn. It was always made into a game of hide and seek when I was with Kara, where we would laugh and talk constantly. Now, all the fun seemed to be drained from it. Where was she? When I entered the lunchroom, I had halfway expected to see Kara sitting at her usual table, a small smile tugging at her face as she waited for me to sit next to her. But today the table was empty, only for a single wrapper or two tossed on it. Jason, baby, come over here. The most annoying squeal ever pierced my ears, and I honestly wanted to claw my eardrums out. I looked over at the table where Caleb, Charlotte, Ryder, Kelly, Phoebe, Tracy, and Evelyn sat. One seat remained between Ryder and Evelyn. I begrudgingly headed over and sat down, opening my lunch. Kelly, have you seen Kara today? Kelly shook her head, and a frown crossed Evelyn's face. Why are you worried about that snob? Don't you want me? I shook my head and gritted my teeth. Looking up, I could see Evelyn and Tracy glaring. Evelyn was searching with her beady eyes for the girl that had stolen my attention, and Tracy glared at Charlotte. Both of them couldn't get over the fact that their boyfriends had moved on. Phoebe, on the other hand, was striking up a conversation with both Ryder and Kelly, who appeared to be jealous at first. When she realized Phoebe wouldn't pose as a threat, she joined in a lot more. Ethan whimpered, wanting our mate to be with us. Whoever she was, he wanted someone to get possessive over us. Not like Evelyn, a brat who only wanted to be with me for the position, but someone who really loved us. I sighed. Looks like that wasn't happening anytime soon. After the dismissal bell rang signaling the end of the school day, I bolted out the door. "Jason, baby, call me. We can talk out what's going on," Evelyn cried out as I ran as fast as I could to my Lamborghini. I was going to stop by Kara's house to make sure she was okay. Ethan and I both needed to have the reassurance of that to calm us down. I punched the gas, going a lot faster than I should have been, but the roads by her house were clear. And with most of the police officers being werewolves, what were they going to do to the future Alpha arrest me? As soon as I pulled up outside of Kara's house, I stopped the car and debated what to do next. It looked the same as it had Friday, with the black sedan parked in the garage. The black sedan. Unless she was picked up by someone, she was most likely home. I pulled out my phone and quickly rang her number. Looking up into the top bedroom window, I saw a light turn on and movement before the call went to voicemail. She was home, that I was for sure of. Just as I stepped out of the car, however, a black van pulled into the driveway. That was one of the vans used by my pack, and out got two of my father's best-trained warriors. "What are you doing here?" I blurted out before I could stop myself. "Sorry to disturb you, Alpha, but we have some news." "Did you really have to interrupt me right now?" Ethan was mostly responsible for the way my voice came out sour at the prospect of not seeing Kara. "And after coming this far." "Sorry, Alpha, but we have some information on the wanted wolf." My eyebrows shot up in surprise. "So, is the wolf in our territory?" I asked curiously. "Yes, and they are living and most likely attending school around here. One of our top suspects is the girl in this house. Girl. I thought the wanted wolf was a guy." "No one knows for certain, Alpha. Would you like us to continue a search on this property to gain more evidence?" At this point, I couldn't hold Ethan back. "No," he barked, shocking the warriors. "You will not search this house." "Do you want to see the folder, Alpha? It has all the evidence if you want to see it." I grabbed it from them without a reply as I hastily flipped through it. Photos of the house and Kara leaving it were in a jumbled mess in the file. Behind that were documents that appeared forged or fake. I gritted my teeth. I couldn't let my feelings dictate what happened to the pack, so I sucked up my pride and replied quietly, "I'll present this to my father tonight. Thank you for finding this." They nodded their head in sync and got back in their car. I headed back to my car and stowed the folder with my things. I looked longingly at Kara's house. I was so close. Fighting my better judgment, I approached the porch and knocked on the door, eager for a reply of any kind. It opened, revealing Martha, who had a light layer of flour sprinkled on her face and in her hair. "Oh, Jason, what a surprise to see you." "Hey, Martha," I said, smiling. "Is Kara home by any chance?" Martha's face looked torn, like she wanted to tell me, but something was holding her back. "She is here, but she's sick. I think she caught a cold Friday night." Why hadn't I thought of that? Maybe she had been afraid of the sparks when we kissed. Or maybe it was just the fact we kissed in general that had gotten to her. I knew that the sudden cold she had caught was just an act to stay away from everyone. What an idiot I have been. "That sounds about right," Ethan smirked in my mind. I growled at him and shut him out. "Well, I hope she feels better," I said before saying farewell to Martha. Just before the door shut completely, I saw a mess of blonde and purple peeking downstairs. I smirked to myself as I headed back to my car. "She just can't resist us," Ethan joked, strutting around. I rolled my eyes. "Yeah, right. In your dreams." Suddenly, I hoped he'd been right. I hoped that Kara had been wanting to see me as much as I had wanted to see her. Wait, did I like the human? 32. I'm the human's mate. JSONSPOV. By the time I had pulled into the pack house's driveway, I was completely confused. Was Kara more than a friend to me? Or was the kiss from last Friday night putting weird fantasies in my head? I entered my room a few minutes later and set the folder of information on my cramped desk. I would have to present the information at dinner tonight. Just the thought of saying something bad about Kara made my skin crawl in disgust. Wait, did I have feelings for the human? What about the rogue Amy? Wasn't she my mate? She could be, but we felt sparks with Kara, Ethan pointed out smugly. Oh gosh, was I the human's mate? Jason, you wanted to present something to us. My father, along with Caleb, Ryder, and their dad stood together in the meeting room. I stood up and cleared my throat before starting. Today, when I was coming back from school, 2 of our highly trained warriors delivered this file to me. I held up the folder, catching everyone in the room's undivided attention. They said it had something to do with the wanted wolf we've been looking for. How does this help us with tracking the wolf? Caleb's father, the current beta, asked. Well, the information in this folder suggests that they are living in our territory as we speak. I showed them the photos and read through the documents before allowing them to investigate for themselves. Caleb looked up at me with a pleased expression plastered on his face. Well, it looks like you found some information on that human after all. I shocked them all by giving a low and deadly growl. Do not talk about her like that. In an instant, everyone in the room besides my dad bowed their heads in submission before apologizing. What's wrong, son? My father asked, concern trickling into his voice. Why are you upset about how the human is referred to? I took a deep breath in, trying to calm my nerves. Why was I so protective over her? Why didn't I want anything bad to be said about Kara? Just thinking about her caused butterflies to erupt in my stomach and my face to heat up. Oh, why did I have to act like a teenage girl? Because you like her, Ethan said, and probably because she is our mate. Our mate. Ethan, stop joking around here, I mind-linked him, panic lacing into my tone. No, it couldn't be. Amy was my mate, not Kara. During my internal battle, everyone in the room had stared at me curiously. Jason, you don't care for her. Do you? Ryder's father asked in a quiet tone. I looked up, feeling my eyes flashing as Ethan tried to take control. I think she might be my mate. Silence echoed throughout the room. Of all the things they had expected to hear, this definitely wasn't it. Ryder stepped forward, watching me cautiously. Jason, are you sure? I nodded my head, working my jaw as I tried to figure out how this was possible. It wasn't uncommon to have a human mate. That happened all the time, but as a Luna. Ethan growled low and deadly in my head. Don't you dare disrespect our mate in any way, shape, or form. I reassured him I wouldn't. Honestly, the last thing I wanted to do was to hurt Kara in any way. My dad stepped in front of me, a curious look in his eyes. What does it feel like, being around her? I knew where he was going with this. He was trying to see if the symptoms of my puppy love was actually the mate bond or some stupid crush. So I spoke honestly. When I'm around Kara, I feel like I am the happiest I can be. And whenever I think about her, it brings a smile to my face. When we touch, it feels like sparks are exploding. Okay, Jason. That's enough. You are starting to sound like a love-sick teenage girl. Pull yourself together, Caleb laughed. The whole speech was really cheesy, but I knew deep down he felt the same for Charlotte. I think the human may be your mate, Jason, my father spoke wisely. So how are you going to break the news to her about what we are? My face fell at the thought. How would she react? Would she leave me forever? Or would she accept me for who I was? I guess once I know she has developed strong feelings for me back, I'll tell her. Ryder whistled quietly. Good luck telling that to her. You'll be lucky if she doesn't run and hide. Ouch, I looked up to see Ryder's father smack him on the back of the head with a warning look. I buried my head in my hands. No, Ryder's right. She will probably freak out and run off if she finds out what we are. She is in that anti-wolf club after all. We can do a little background search on her to figure out if she knows anything about wolves, Caleb suggested, and the other members voiced their approval. This was all the information they could get on her, I said, referring to the trackers as I pulled out some documents. A lot of them look forged, and according to this, no one named Kara Thomas existed until that human showed up here. My dad cocked his head to the side, a far-off look in his eyes. Maybe she already knows about our world. I snorted. Good try, Dad, but do you really think I wouldn't have noticed my mate is something else by now? He shrugged. Her aunt is Martha. It would make sense for her to use a masking spray. Well, either way, I am still her mate. I will fight for her till the end. Nothing is going to stand in my way, even if she isn't human. Everyone nodded, seemingly pleased with their future alpha's devotion to their new Luna. 33. Can't run. K-A-R-A-H-S-P-O-V. I had finally succeeded in dyeing my hair back to blonde and adding in the purple highlights on my own. Now I somewhat resembled my human self. I still couldn't get over the fact that I had changed back to my original self so suddenly. I skipped Monday mostly because I didn't want to confront Jason. Had I really talked to him in that dream? Is that why I had changed back? Instead, I spent the first day of the week trying to come up with an explanation for everything. I had been doing the same thing all weekend, moping around deep in thought, basically missing the whole day. My aunt had finally had enough by the time Monday rolled around and I refused to go to school. Keeping yourself isolated like this isn't good, Martha said. Now would you mind telling me what's wrong? I ran a hand through my hair frantically, trying to decide where to start. I don't know. I guess everything started when Jason and I kissed Friday. That night, Rachel suggested us talking him through a dream or something. I saw him in the dream, but I looked like my regular self, like Amy. I told him my real name, but he wasn't able to know I was the wanted wolf. Anyway, when I woke up my hair was brown and wavy, the dye came right out. And then Jason texted me saying he had a really weird dream. I didn't think it was possible it came out in a whisper, but I still heard what my aunt had said. Martha, what are you talking about? I knew you could cover your tracks, but talking in between your dreams. What a talent, she mumbled to herself, before her gaze shifted from looking off in the distance to me. You really are special. Martha, what are you actually talking about? She sighed before beginning. You know how I'm a witch, and your mother is a wolf, right? I nodded. Hybrids didn't exist. That's why my mother inherited her father's werewolf trait and Martha got her mother's witch characteristics. Well, I knew the minute you stepped foot in my house that you were different. That spray I gave you was actually water. You convinced yourself that it would work, so your inner self was able to mask your scent. Martha, what are you trying to say? I asked hesitantly. Amy Cara, I don't know how else to say it. You're part witch. To say this shocked me was an understatement. I jumped back, looking at her wide-eyed. You're lying. I'm not a hybrid, those don't exist. Yes, they do. Due to their witch heritage, however, they have been able to hide themselves from the werewolf's watchful eyes. That's also why you were able to communicate with your mate through your dreams. Rachel is different, though. That's what makes you different from a lot of other witches. Instead of having your human form being a witch and having your wolf separate, your wolf and witch are combined. This makes it easier to keep up your appearance as a human. I couldn't breathe. It felt like a bomb was dropped on my life. Everything was fine moment, and the next. Everything changed. So I'm a hybrid. Yes, you are the rightful Luna of the Silver Crescent pack that is a hybrid. Pretty impressive if you ask me. Later Monday, I continued to get texts from Jason and ended up seeing him outside the house. I couldn't help but feel butterflies explode in my stomach under his intense gaze. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't handle the stress. I couldn't become the Luna of the Silver Crescent pack, not while I was on the run. I couldn't put a pack, especially my own, in danger. I also couldn't bring hardships to my mate. I couldn't hide forever, but when I saw the warriors give their future alpha that file, I knew that my time was up. It was either leave or be hunted. And I wasn't about to be found. Tuesday I stayed home, packing. Thanks to the few belongings I carried, I was able to pack light. I only had the essentials. Since I would be going rogue again, I knew that I would have to watch where I stayed. The one thing that was on my side was that I was part witch, so hiding my scent wouldn't be any trouble. I would just have to change my name and get a new haircut, and no one would recognize me. All I had to do was access my bank account where I had saved my money for when I planned to do something like this. Just as the sun began setting, I walked downstairs to double-check I had packed everything. Martha saw me before gingerly sipping her cup of hot tea. You know you can't hide forever. Yes, but as soon as it comes out that the wanted wolf is gone, I can come back. I can just be Amy, and I can live my normal life. Cara, the witches will come for you. What, the witches? Coming for me? I had never heard of such a thing, but then again I wasn't necessarily familiar with the witch community. All witches are required training for their magic. They will come to find you. That doesn't change my mind about leaving. I would rather be caught by them than the wolves any other day of the week. Well, if you want to be that way. Just know I love you and wish you the best of luck on getting out of here. I smiled, saying thanks before darting into the night. I ran through the trees, heading deeper into the forest, déjà vu hitting me head on. It was just like the dream, except Jason wasn't here. Wait, scratch that. I could hear footsteps thundering behind me. I desperately wanted to turn around to see who was trailing me, but with it being as dark as it was, I knew that even with werewolf vision I wouldn't be able to make out who it was. I continued my pace before I heard them scream, "Kara, stop!" Their voice tugged at my heart. To hear them that desperate made me internally and emotionally hurt. I never wanted to hear them sound like that ever again. I slowed to a stop, spinning around to find myself face to face with a fuming Jason. Why were you running? His voice sounded so powerless, like he halfway knew what I was doing but wanted me to confirm it on my own accord. Without saying an answer, I stumbled back a few feet, causing a low growl to rumble in his chest. "Kara, you can't leave." And why not? I snapped. Finally, after all the shock and fear I had experienced in the last week and previous 24 hours, I had finally cracked. I think Jason could see it too, and that scared him. "I don't want to scare you," he said, taking in a deep breath, "but I'm a werewolf." He looked at me, waiting for me to either bolt from the spot or laugh my head off, thinking he had finally gone insane. To both of our surprise, I did neither. I know he seemed shocked at how casually and easily I brushed it off, acting as though this was nothing that would concern me. But how? Before Jason managed to finish his sentence, however, a group of warrior wolves burst through the trees, anger and power radiating off their figures. "Alpha, step away from the girl," the leader of the warriors growled lowly, warning Jason to stay away. "How dare you tell me what to do?" I said stay away from the girl. Your father's exact orders. His attention then flickered to me. "You filthy little rogue. Thought you could hide here, could you?" I growled, trying to defend myself. But I knew it was too late. Because the wanted wolf had just been caught. 34. The true identity. JASONSPOV. Telling your human mate your true identity isn't easy. In fact, it is the part most wolves dread. The part where a werewolf must reveal their world to a human or suffer the loss of a mate. I'm not going to lie, Ethan kind of forced me into it. Although I believed our mate wasn't ready to get over the emotional shock that comes with a large secret, he insisted. After all, we had seen her fleeing the territory, and by the looks of it, she planned to never return. I readied myself for a response, either hysterics or being called a liar. When she opened her mouth, I expected her to show her fear, or to voice her views on my psychological health. Instead, Kara kept me on my toes like always. I was shocked to hear, I know how could she brush it off that easily? How could she hear me break the news about what I really am only to reply that she knew all along? But how? How is she acquainted with the werewolf community? But how? Before I could finish voicing my thoughts, a group of my dad's highest warriors approached us, anger and power evident in their strides. "Alpha, step away from the girl," the leader of the warriors growled lowly, warning me of Kara. Ethan felt like lashing out at this comment because she was our mate after all, and no one told us to step away from our mate. "How dare you tell me what to do?" I said stay away from the girl. Your father's exact orders. His attention then flickered to Kara. "You filthy little rogue. Thought you could hide here, could you?" Kara growled, but fear took over, and I knew that she somehow knew what this was about. She looked defeated. Ethan and I couldn't bear to see her look like that, and a foreign growl left her mouth. No, I wasn't going to let them do this. Step back from her, I turned to the warrior yelling at me, before growling venomously. And why should I do that? She's the wanted wolf, the one we've been looking for. Your father was talking to a nearby pack and they told us who she was. Kara tried bolting. Keyword tried. She was immediately restrained by the wolves, to which I snarled. Let go of her. I received a mind link from my dad. I knew that human girl was no good. Son, I need you to stop fighting my warriors and come back home. We'll talk about this there. I sighed, knowing my dad wasn't going to leave any room for argument. I also was aware that the warriors weren't going to just hand her over. Lock her up in the dungeon, but I don't want a hair on her head hurt. You hear me? I am going to interrogate her as soon as I finish speaking with my father. They nodded, seeming pleased with my answer before dragging Kara to the cells. I really hated to do that to her, but it was really the only way. If I ever wanted to get the truth out, I was going to have to do this. I headed back to the pack house to find my dad and a few other alphas waiting for me. We headed to the meeting room to discuss this in private without any interference, like Evelyn. Alpha Jason, one of the men, said, looking at me dead in the eye, "All the packs will be forever grateful for your discovery of the wanted wolf. She has evaded us long enough." Yes, well, I think we are going to hold on to her for a while. I wasn't about to leave my mate with these alphas to get tortured. That would only happen over my dead body. No, she is the only one that knows the true alpha of the Blue Moon Pack's location. Without her, we will never know. Suddenly, a guard burst in, breathing heavily. She's trying to escape. The silver isn't burning her. Then she missed the werewolf gene, one of the alphas concluded, standing up from his seat abruptly. I pushed him back into his seat. "I will deal with her. You guys can go back to the meeting. I will be back as soon as I finish a small interrogation." Without leaving any room for any of the leaders to object, I ran out the door, heading to the cells. What was she if she wasn't affected by silver, yet knew about the werewolf world? Before I could finish my thought, I found the cells. And it was complete and utter chaos. Guards were scrambling about, trying to subdue Kara while she taunted them. "Enough," I yelled, causing the entire room to go quiet. "I am about to start an interrogation here. I want everyone out." No one had to tell the guards twice, because they fled before I could blink. I took a deep breath before making my way in front of Kara's cage. "Start from the beginning and tell me the truth, please." I didn't want to sound broken, but I couldn't hold it back. I knew that she was hiding so much from me that I couldn't even comprehend. Her gaze upon me softened as she came to the edge of her cage, just mere feet away from me. "I am the wanted wolf. My father was the previous alpha of the Blue Moon Pack. He went crazy and on a rampage when I was younger, hence why all the alphas want my head. They want me to find a way to hurt him, and to find him." Her head drops, but the way her shoulders lift shows me that she has been waiting to get this off of her shoulders. "But they will never find my father. He died a few years back in a car crash. No one believes me, so I have been on the run ever since. My name isn't Kara Thomas, either. My name is Amy Barlow." I gasped in shock. Amy, from my dream. Could this be her? The last name Barlow also shocked me. I had been told the legends of Alpha Barlow since I was a child. No. "You are also my mate, and I am a werewolf." I was confused by the last comment, because currently Amy, was holding on tightly to the silver and wolf bane bars. Seeing my strong gaze, she slowly retracted them, revealing no sign of injury. "I'm not only wanted by the wolves." I didn't care who she was wanted by, and Ethan and I wanted to voice that. "Kara, Amy, whichever name you want to go by, you are my mate. I wouldn't trade you for anything in the world. I don't care who you are wanted by. You are the rightful Luna of the Silver Crescent Pack, and you will take your role." I quickly extracted a key from my pocket for the cell before pulling my mate into a bone-crushing hug. Her scent and presence calmed me, and I could tell I had the same reaction on her. Before I could stop myself, our lips connected, and she responded immediately. That's when I knew that no matter what happened, I would have my mate by my side, and honestly, I couldn't be any happier. 35. Demanding for a stop. JASONS POV. After some persuasion, I got the other alphas to agree to go home. I told them that since the wanted wolf was caught by my wolves on my territory, I should be the first one to interrogate her. They simultaneously agreed, eager to get their paws on Kara to make her pay for what they have done. Over our dead body, Ethan growled. Throughout the meetings I have had with them, it has not only been a struggle to get along with them, but also every second Ethan tries to take control to kill them. I've never seen him so aggressive before, and it honestly scares me. As soon as the last alpha had left after vowing to return, I ran to track down Kara. I wasn't going to waste any more time. I needed that alpha position to protect her. If I got the title, I would gain more power, and she would too. becoming Luna and all. I found out she was still being held in the cells. I made my way down there to find all my guards knocked out and Kara leaning against the outside of her cage. She still amazes me every single day. What? How? A smirk slowly appears on her face as she walks towards me. There is still a lot you don't know. I had been in meetings for so long that I hadn't gotten to see her for a day or two. I checked in with my guards, but I still felt really bad. I pulled her to me so quickly she gasped in surprise, slamming into my chest. I stuffed my head in the crook of her neck and breathed in her scent to calm down my wolf. Kara, I need a Luna. I have to become an alpha, but not without my Luna by my side. She froze as I told her this, her eyes growing wide. I'll just put your pack in more danger. No, you won't. By the time anyone else finds out, we will already be ruling one of the most powerful packs. They wouldn't dare attack us, and even if they did, they would be taken out in an instant. She nodded her head, but still looked unconvinced. I wanted to sit and console her, but my father had already gathered the pack for our announcement. Right now you have to meet the pack, though. K-A-R-A-S-P-O-V. I was currently dressed in a knee-length gray dress. It wasn't too formal, but it also wasn't sweatpants and a ratty t-shirt. I made my way towards the big stage that had been set up outside in the courtyard, my hair flowing behind me. Jason came out, walking towards me. He was wearing a dress shirt rolled up to his elbows and some dress pants. He hadn't really had a chance to change since he was helping with the preparations. You look stunning, he told me before turning serious. The pack can't wait to meet their Luna. Come on, he ushered me towards the group of people. Getting up on the stage, he called everyone's attention. Once the crowd went quiet and thousands of eyes were glued on us, Jason started. Silver Crescent Pack, I will officially be taking the role as your alpha. The crowd erupted in cheers before he gestured to me, and she will become your Luna. A murmur of whispers cascaded over the crowd. A lot of them had never seen me before and were confused on how I was suddenly their Luna. Who is she? One girl a little older than me asked. The wanted wolf. Really, Jason? We turned to face Evelyn, who was making her way toward the stage. The crowd exploded in gasps. I heard things like, she can't rule and she'll kill us all, spread like wildfire through the crowd. So much for making a first impression. Jason was growing angered at his pack's treatment. You will respect your Luna. A group of people spoke up. Jason had explained how they were really supportive of him in his pack duties. Knowing their names from Jason mentioning them, I watched as they stood up for me. You can't just say things about her when you don't know the full story. We need to listen to her first before we make a decision. The crowd argued with them, and Jason pulled me off the stage. He ran a hand through his hair in worry. This whole situation was obviously stressing him out. They aren't normally like this. Packs are supposed to love their Lunas no matter what. This was true. Just one look at the alpha's mate, and the pack was able to identify her as their Luna. It was as if they had seen her before, and just now felt a sense of déjà vu. If I had looked like my normal self without these contacts and dyed hair, they immediately would have stood up for me. The whole hairstyle was throwing them off. Don't worry, I said, trying to ease his concern. I know why they are like this. You do. Confusion was etched into his expression. Before he could get more answers from me or even start to further interrogate me on the subject, we were approached by pack members. Looking closer, I realized that they were the ones to stand up for me. Sorry for the pack's behavior, Enderking98 said. They only think this pack needs to be ruled by their true Luna. Are you actually the alpha's mate? You don't look like the Luna. Hibbert_Mattis spoke, looking at me as if they were trying to see a familiar feature. Yeah, it's just complicated, I said, glancing down at my feet. I was happy, though, that some of the pack members really wanted to take the time to get to know me. I could tell that Jason really appreciated it also. Instead of claiming me unfit for the position at first glance, they decided to look deeper. Well, whatever reason you're here, Warrior Olaf said, we will support you. After all, our alpha trusts you, so why shouldn't we? Thanks for giving me a chance, guys. I really appreciate it. They said their goodbyes before leaving. As much as I wanted to stay, I still didn't have support of the pack, and with no support from them, there was no way they would even think of fighting for me. I also couldn't show myself as Amy because then the other packs would have just another way to identify me. I couldn't let Jason, or any of his pack members, especially Enderking 98, Hibbert_Mattis and War Yorolaf get hurt. I wouldn't let them pay for something my family did. So I narrowed down my choices. And right then I knew I was going to run. Run until I couldn't run any farther. And if I made it, maybe I'd even return .36, running from my fears. KRASPOV. Finally, I am going to leave, once and for all. Jason can't and won't stop me this time. I will come back when I am fit to become the Lunar. I know I am going to break my mate's heart, but I can't let him or his pack die. Not for me. Not because of me. I was giving a room down the hall from Jason, which was a definite step up from the cells in the dungeon. I have been getting used to my witch powers, which is how I was able to knock out the guards with a snap of my fingers and bypass the silver and wolfsbane-coated cage. I have been up all night, not bothering to sleep. I knew that Jason would feel my restlessness through our bond, but I hoped that he was too tired or busy to take much notice. I was currently packing my necessities. All I had was a small string bag I had found in the closet here, a pair of clothes, and some food I had stolen from the kitchen on the way up. Now my plan was about to go into action, and I was going to get away with it. I stepped outside my room and silently closed the door behind me so that I didn't wake anyone. The last thing I needed was a horde of guards on my tail, or worse, Jason. I didn't need an overprotective alpha mate on my tail. I had left a note in my room explaining everything. Hopefully he would take it seriously and not follow me. It was the last thing he would have for me, other than the memories and my lingering scent. I walked down the hallways, making as little sound as possible. The last thing I needed was to be caught. Somehow I knew that this time I'd make it. I would be free from this pack. Is that actually how it is? Rachel asked. We are prisoners of our mate's pack. I didn't want to agree, but it honestly felt like it. I was kind of trapped here and I couldn't be myself without giving too much away. Maybe this was a good thing, leaving. I would get a chance to focus on ending this wanted wolf thing. As I walked down the hallway, I heard footsteps. By the way they were perfectly in sync together, I knew who they were immediately. Guards. I glanced behind me, seeing the first guard turn the corner before I took off sprinting. After getting over his shock, the first guard yelled upon seeing me. I was already halfway down the hallway before their footsteps thundered behind me. There is nothing like making an escape that wakes the entire pack house, huh? I was halfway down the stairs when people started leaving their rooms to see what was going on. This only made it harder for reinforcements to weave through the halls, which was definitely a bonus for me. I finished the last few steps before I heard a voice that made my heart stop. Kara. I slowed my pace just enough to turn around and steal a glance. Jason had shock and hurt written all over his face. His hair was messed up like he had run his fingers through it one too many times. He stood at the top of the stairs, a look of disbelief taking over his features. Really? You're running again? Is that all you really do? When something isn't going your way, you take off? What kind of wolf are you? I came to a stop, the guards backing away from me, obviously wanting to let their alpha have a moment to speak. I turned to face him, a growl escaping from deep in my throat. I'm a kind of wolf you don't know anything about. One you have no idea of things they have gone through. One that you shouldn't be so naive to judge. With that, I ran to the door. The guards followed me and lunged when I reached for the door. Too bad for them, all it took was for me to touch the door once. And with that, I was on the other side. It's kind of a witch thing. Anyway, I continued my pace, refusing to look behind me. If I looked back, I would be sucked back into that prison of a pack. I wasn't ready to be a prisoner just yet. My pace in the woods continued as I weaved between trees. This reminded me of the other night I got caught, but tonight was different, because I would escape, and I wouldn't be caught. I heard the guards behind me yelling orders between each other. Being part witch had its benefits, though. Like I could hide my scent, which was what I did just before I crossed the pack border. They scrambled to catch my scent, but to them it led nowhere. I smirked as I continued my run, hoping to get out of here as fast as I could. After a few minutes, I came to a stop, trying to make sense of my new surroundings. Well, look what we have here. My face paled as I turned to face an alpha, one of the ones that had always been out to get me. He had about 20 warriors flanking his sides as he approached me. Tell my niece thank you for a job well done. My breathing became quicker. Niece. Was there a mole somewhere in the Silver Crescent pack? I backed away, only to have my hands tied in silver. I let out a shriek as the silver touched my skin. I felt nothing but the cold, metal that did nothing but, not hurt me. Since I was half witch, I was completely immune to it. The Alpha laughed deeply. There will be more from where that's from. Before he could finish, I took things into my own hands. I hoped that it would end in my favor. But one girl to about 20 highly trained wolves and an alpha? I wasn't quite sure even the alpha-blooded witch hybrid would make it out. 37. Run and you die. JASONSPOV. I'm a kind of wolf you don't know anything about. One you have no idea of things they have gone through. One that you shouldn't be so naive to judge. I couldn't, no matter how hard I tried, get what Kara had last said to me out of my head. And it broke my heart. Yes, I probably went a little overboard with what I said to her, but her response made me realize something. I really didn't know her, and stopping her would be futile. She would only continue to run again. I had ventured into her room to see if she had left something, and I found a letter on her nightstand. Ethan was beyond livid. Did she really think we needed protecting? We were an alpha, for crying out loud. If anything, we should be protecting her. A knock on the door tore me from my thoughts, and my eyes connected with my father's, which we crinkled in worry. Jason, are you okay? I shrugged, pocketing the letter. I still couldn't believe that Kara had done that. I had already told her I didn't care what kind of background she had. She was my mate and I would love her anyway. But nope, she just had to continue running. My father came over to me and put a hand on my shoulder. I know it's hard, Jason, but you are going to get through this. We currently have a team of warriors and trackers working on finding her as we speak. You are going to become Alpha in 5 days, though. With or without a Luna. I nodded, reality crashing down hard on me. I was going to have to go through the ceremony alone. Something that has barely ever been done in the history of packs. I needed a Luna one way or another, and I knew that choosing someone who wasn't my mate to take the job, while not appealing, may be my only choice. I sighed, heading back to my room. Kara's scent was really having a big impact on my wolf and I really needed to clear my head. I sat on my bed, reminiscing of all the good times we had had. Flashback. I walked to class with Kara by my side, laughing at some comment she had recently made. Even in the middle of the school day, she looked completely at ease. Her smile was contagious, spreading to anyone who passed as she laughed. Looking ahead, I saw Evelyn. The girl who I had originally thought was my mate, the one that I later realized only hung around me for power. I quickly nudged Kara's shoulder and gestured towards Evelyn, showing her the one thing blocking our path. She nodded, before a mischievous look spread across her face and excitement glowed in her eyes. She ran forward, not before yelling, "Race ya!" I sped after her, making sure to go at human speed to avoid suspicious looks before sliding by Evelyn, who was too busy talking to her friends to notice. Oblivious much? Kara laughed once I caught up to her. Who knew that Mr. Popular liked to race down hallways like he was in kindergarten? Soon her laughter became my laughter as we walked to our class, hand in hand. I couldn't place it, but there was something about her. Something about her that stood out from everyone else. Something that made me want to be by her side more than anything. End of flashback. I stood up, shaking the memories from my head. All this thinking only made me miss her more. I would do practically anything to have her by my side at this moment. Ethan whined, wanting to act on the instinct that told him to go after his mate and protect her from harm. He desperately wanted to stretch his paws and bound through the forest, to rescue his mate and return her back home to our pack. I remembered how she had said her real name was Amy, like the one from my dream. Is that why she looked so off to the rest of the pack? In my eyes, she was beautiful either way. What if that was why they couldn't track her? I stood up to inform my father of this. Just before I could grab the handle to my bedroom door, some of my dad's top warriors and trackers yanked it open. Alpha, they looked out of breath, having run all the way here and back. What is it? Had they found something about Kara? Was she okay? You might want to see this, it's concerning Kara. That was all it took for me to follow them outside. Once outside, I took in what was laid before us. It was the pack that Kara had taken with her, torn to shreds with bloodstains covering it. No. Ethan cried out inside me, not wanting to picture our precious mate injured. I looked up at the warriors and trackers, fear in my eyes. Is she okay? My dad's best and strongest warrior stepped forward. We found Alpha Xander's scent covering the area. And death. I'm sorry, Alpha, but we couldn't smell Kara. No, it can't be. This was a nightmare, I told myself. This was a nightmare I had yet to wake up from. My breathing turned to hyperventilating. No, Kara was safe. She was on her mission. I'm sorry, Alpha, but Kara's dead. It felt like someone had stolen the air from me as I dropped to my knees, the pain unbearable. I may have been an alpha, but that didn't stop of the river of tears that spilled from my eyes, that threatened to flood the ground around me. My heart broke in two, as I fell the rest of the way to the ground. What was the point in life anymore? After all, my mate was dead. Kara was dead. And it was all my fault. The end 38. Amy. IMYSPOV. Dying feels like. I honestly don't know, because I never died. When I transformed into my old self, I didn't know the outcome. Only that I would do my best. I broke out of the handcuffs, using their surprise as an advantage. I swung them up and hit Alpha Xander in the face, causing him to hiss and fall back. I held the handcuffs tightly, ready to lunge at any advancing person. No one messes with Amy Barlow and gets away with it. I must admit, I was getting used to the name Kara, but I still love my name Amy and I always will. I used my witch power, sending all of the wolves to the ground. I stood tall above them. Don't mess with Amy Barlow, or she will mess with you, I turned, only to hear Xander chuckle before standing. Oh, is that so, pup? Before I could react, he tugged me back, using a gloved hand to take away my silver weapon before pressing it against my neck. I struggled against him. For me, this was a show. For him, this was real life. I was a hybrid, which gave me the upper hand. I wanted it to seem like I died, because if I did, I would be left alone. Just kill her. Alpha, one of the warriors, gasped, trying to break the spell that held him to the ground. She isn't worth it. With that, Xander gripped my neck tightly and plunged a hidden dagger deep into my side. I threw myself, resulting in me being outside of my body. What was I going to do? I watched helplessly as it shriveled up, causing the spell to wear off and Xander and his pack members to laugh. I soon came face to face with a very scared-looking Alpha. Why, you might ask? Well, maybe because I was still in my human form, despite the shriveled body laying on the ground. Rachel assured me it was a decoy, something witches used to get out of tough situations. Can't get rid of me that easily. Once I had disposed of the bodies and hidden my decoy deep in the trees, I continued my trek away from the Silver Crescent pack. I felt guilt start to eat away at me as I felt Jason's sorrow through the bond. The farther away I got from his pack, the sicker I felt. What if he thinks I'm dead? What if he doesn't want to live anymore? What if he makes Evelyn his Luna? Wait, where did that last thought come from? Before I could ponder on it any longer, I heard rustling in the bushes. I stopped, looking in that direction. Rachel sounded alarmed. We crossed into another pack's territory. I looked around, seeing wolves emerge from the surrounding trees. I growled, standing my ground. They returned the favor, circling around me, effectively cutting off all escape routes. What bloodthirsty pack had I entered now? The Alpha came forward, and for some reason he seemed so familiar. You are on Blue Moon territory. Wait, Amy, disbelief painted his face as he soaked in my sudden appearance on his land. What are you doing here? I ran towards him, getting pulled into a bone-crushing hug. He was like an uncle to me. It's a long story, I said, peeling him off of me. Concern flashed through his eyes. What happened? You aren't bringing anything bad with you, are you? No, I shouldn't be. Suddenly, my whole world became fuzzy and it felt like I was underwater. Everything around me became black. Amy, are you okay, baby? I opened my eyes after blinking a few times to adjust to the light. I looked in front of me to find my mom. Lines under her eyes revealed sleepless nights, and her hair was a mess. But she still had a layer of makeup on and crispy wrinkle-free clothes. I sat up groggily. "I'm fine, Mom. You don't know how good it is to see you," I hugged her, which she instantly returned. Looking around the room, I found I was in the PAX hospital. Thankfully, I wasn't hooked up to anything. I personally hated needles. "One of the warriors knocked you out before Anthony could stop them. Anthony is the alpha here, and used to be my father's beta. Honestly, I bet the wolf that knocked me out was a new recruit, so he probably didn't realize who I was. Anyway, Amy, why did you come back? I thought you'd be safer with your aunt. And what happened to your hair?" "It's okay, Mom," I said, sitting up more. "I'll tell you and Anthony everything." We were currently in the meeting room, where Anthony dealt with most of the PAC happenings. Both him and my mother sat across from me, staring at me intently. Okay, so from the beginning I tried to figure out where it was best to start from. So it turns out that the alpha of the Silver Crescent pack is my mate, and for now I have refused the Lunar position. That's part of the reason I ran. Anthony stood up abruptly, anger filling his gaze. "You do get that is one of the most powerful packs. He won't hesitate to slaughter any of us for holding his mate hostage." "But you're not," I tried to reason with him. "Not in him and his wolf's eyes. Also, being an alpha, he is going to be way more protective. Don't worry, he won't come here. And he knows I left, so he will come get me, without killing anyone. I'm sure of it." Thankfully, that was enough to convince Anthony to sit down and slow his breathing. I made sure he and his wolf were calm before I continued. "Okay, so as I was saying, it turns out I am a hybrid. I inherited the werewolf and witch gene. Apparently this makes me immune to silver and wolfsbane, allows me to communicate through dreams, teleport small distances, and make decoy bodies. I'm still getting used to it. I hide my scent the entire time without Martha's help, and I was able to disguise myself as a red head. The alpha, or future alpha I should say, is named Jason. Anyway, he was so confused because he thought the red head and brown-haired me were his mate, as well as some other wolf. It turns out that I am, so he thought my human self was his mate, which still, technically I am. Another pack tracked me to here, so the Silver Crescent pack found out. I tried to run, but it didn't work. All the packs were after me, and since I didn't want them thinking I looked like this also, I kept the blonde purple hair with blue eyes. Of course, the pack wouldn't accept me because I didn't look like their true Luna. I knew then I had to leave. I couldn't put my mate nor his pack in danger. I ran into Alpha Xander on the way out, and he ambushed me with 20 of his warrior wolves. That's when I found out about the decoy. What decoy? My mom appeared genuinely concerned, while Anthony's face was the most shocked I had ever seen it. Xander handcuffed me in silver, so I simply broke it and turned back to this appearance, I said, gesturing to my brown hair and green eyes. I threw it at his face and knocked the warriors down with a spell. Xander snuck up behind me with a dagger and stabbed me. "Honey, where are you hurt?" I pushed away my mom as she tried to get closer to examine a non-existent wound. "No, it's not there." I pushed myself out of my body, which shriveled up. It went back to what I looked like in human form. I was still in my body somehow because they all were shocked. I dealt with them, so they won't be bothering us again. Oh, and everyone thinks the wanted wolf is dead as well. "Even your mate?" Anthony asked hesitantly. I nodded my head as searing pain ripped through my chest, one that was indescribable. It felt like a burning stake had gone through my heart. I dropped to the ground, clutching my torso as I screamed in pain. "Anthony, do something despite my mother's calls." Anthony's eyes were glazed over. He was probably receiving a mind link. Another wave of pain made me wither on the ground, strangled cries escaping me. Upon opening my eyes, I found Anthony hovering over me. I just received a mind link from the future alpha of the Silver Crescent pack. He takes his alpha position in 5 days. Tomorrow is his mate's funeral. I whimpered. Just hearing it made my wolf and I hurt. I knew I should have hidden the body better. I wanted to call Jason and tell him I was all right, but I couldn't appear out of nowhere until the wanted wolf ordeal had calmed down. How am I going to tell him? I croaked. Anthony smiled. Let's give everything time to cool off. Then, go see your mate. Enter his territory as an unanimous wolf and ask for permission to stay. Then reveal yourself. You said he knows that you in this state are his mate. I nodded, a small plan formulating in my head. If I played my cards right, I would be able to come back as his mate. I couldn't let him hurt himself, but I also couldn't track the danger back to his pack. I missed him so much. That was what hurt most. My mother's face appeared in front of me. "Sweetie, you care an awful lot for this boy, don't you?" I nodded, a sad smile appearing on my face just at the mention of him. "Of course, he's my mate." "Then why did you come back? Why didn't you stay with him?" "Mom, I would have hurt them. If I revealed my true identity, the pack would get relentless attacks. We build up enemies so quick and—" "But do you really want Jason to believe you're dead? That you don't exist anymore?" Honestly, weighing his options, I'd say he'd either kill himself or search for a new Luna. Probably he will start looking for a second chance mate. Just thinking of Jason with someone else made my skin crawl. "No, mate is all mine," Rachel growled possessively. But my mom was right. Could I have at least told Jason I was okay? That I planned on returning very soon? I sighed, running a hand down my face. I'm so confused. What should I do? My mom patted my shoulder. "Give him some time. Then, like Anthony said, once everything dies down, go to him. Give him the mate he deserved from the start. His pack needs a Luna, and without one, they will collapse. You need to be his Luna." I nodded, knowing that she was telling the truth. I missed him so deeply, but I needed to hold off on overwhelming him. I also didn't need to make me a prime suspect for the murder of Kara. Basically me. I sat down, staring out at the pack territory. The one nice thing about the meeting room was that there were big windows that could be opened to lighten up the room.